Last time we talked about the for loop, and the for loop is designed so that when you know how many times you need to execute a loop, whether it's 10 or 1,000, but you know the number of times you're going to go through, you use the for loop. So when you don't know the number of times you're going to go through, you're just going to, some kind of condition is going to occur. That's what the while loop is for. They're very similar, and you could actually write a for loop with a while loop. And they have the same sort of variations in syntax. The first one is just the while keyword, then your condition, like x is less than 5. So while x is less than 5, execute some statement. And in the statement, of course, you better be changing x to at some point get bigger than 5 or your loop will never end. The other form, and the one you're going to use, is the one that uses open bracket, close bracket, and then multiple statements. So while this condition is true, everything in these statements will execute. And then the partner of the while loop is the do while. So while executes the condition, then does the statements. Do actually does the statements and then executes the condition. So it's always going to execute at least once. And again, it's legal, but I don't think you'll ever see it done without the open and close brackets. All right, so let's go write a while loop over in Eclipse. So let's just let's start with a variable x equals 1. Let's set, we want a max value of, let's say 100 is our termination condition. And then let's say while x is less than 100. And then we'll put our brackets, and then we'll do something to x. So let's add x to itself. So this is the same as x equals x plus x. And then let's just see out. And I think I've already got my see out standard, using standard cout. So we'll see out x, and then we'll also put out a new line character here. And then maybe one last thing we'll do is we will just put out done, so we know when our loop ends, like that. Okay, so it's probably worth pausing the video at this point just to see if you're getting the gist of this. Try and figure out what this is going to print out, what numbers are going to print out here. So it starts as 1 here, then it adds it to itself, then it prints out a number, and then it checks, is it less than 100, then it does it again. Okay, and how many iterations are you going to go through, and what are the numbers going to be? And then I'll resume the video. And I'm going to build this now, and hopefully you made at least a guess. And I've got an error. Oh, so because I hard-coded my number, right? Don't want to hard-code numbers, no magic numbers, we want to use that. So it was just a warning. Okay, so now it built, and now we'll run this. And there we go. And let's just scroll up a little bit here. And there you can see we printed out basically a binary progression: 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Now you may be surprised, 128, hey, our condition was less than 100. But you have to remember, it set the value in here. It was 64 when it did the condition. So then it added 64 to 64, got 128, printed it out, went from here, jumped back to the while loop up here, evaluated the condition again, saw that it was greater than 100, and jumped down to the end of the loop and was done. And then our program terminated. So that's a basic while loop. So maybe now let's do a little more complicated. Let's do a do while. So I'm just going to grab all this and get rid of it. Maybe we'll leave the done in there. So let's use a standard string, and we'll just call it input. Okay, and then we'll say do, and we'll open our parentheses, and then down here is our condition, and then we'll say while input. Comparing strings is a little tricky. Let's just say find. And the string is a built-in class, and it has a lot of power. We haven't really talked about it yet, but you can just trust me here that it has a method called find. And we can say, go ahead and find the letter Q, and I want to see if Q is at the beginning of the string. So while input find of Q does not equal 0, okay, then we're going to do our loop. So basically what I'm saying here, I haven't finished yet, so I'm going to do something like cin, and I'm going to put that into input. Okay, so while input does not start with a Q, I'm just going to keep looping. So what I'm going to do, so we can see something, is I'm just going to output my input, and just for fun, we'll say the length is of our input. So you can see a little bit about another thing on the string is it knows how long it is. Input length, and then let's just put our new line character out after that. Okay, so this loop is always going to execute, and that's because I always want to get input at least once. So we'll take from the console and we'll put that in a variable called input, which is this magic string class, and then we'll just send out to the console whatever we typed in plus the length of whatever we typed in. And then if what we typed in starts with the letter Q, this should then fail because Q will be 0, and then we'll come down here and we'll be done and the program will stop. So let's see if we compile. Okay, everything looks like it compiles, and then let's run, and you got to remember nothing will happen down here because it's waiting for our input. So if we type something in, it gives us Fred and tells us the length, and Ethel, and then let's try so there's a Q at the end, and so it still didn't work. So and then we can type the word quit, and now we're done and our program works. So that's your basic while and do while loops with a little bit of extra fun with strings.